He defied every rule of the frontier, and his gaze never let her go. In a land divided by pride and fear, one daring woman and a powerful Lakota chief would rewrite what it means to belong, and what it means to surrender without touch. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story, and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The Dakota Territory, 1876. A bitter wind swept across the plains as Emma Bennett clutched her coat tightly around her slender frame. The small frontier town of Rivercrest appeared on the horizon, a cluster of wooden buildings that seemed fragile against the vast wilderness surrounding it. Emma had traveled from Boston following her father's death, carrying little more than her education, determination, and a letter of appointment to become the town's new schoolteacher. "Almost there, Miss Bennett," called the stagecoach driver. "Rivercrest ain't much to look at, but the folks are decent enough." Emma nodded, her chestnut hair pinned tightly beneath her bonnet. At 23, she had left behind a life of comfort to forge her own path in the West. The stagecoach lurched to a stop before a weathered building with a hand-painted sign, Rivercrest Hotel. Sheriff Miller, a graying man with kind eyes, greeted her. "Welcome to Rivercrest, Miss Bennett. We've been eagerly awaiting our new teacher." "Thank you, Sheriff. I'm eager to begin," Emma replied, straightening her posture despite her exhaustion. As the sheriff helped with her trunks, Emma noticed a commotion down the street. A group of men on horseback rode into town, some white settlers, others clearly Native American. At their center rode a commanding figure who drew her attention immediately. "That's Chief Mahkah and his delegation," explained Sheriff Miller, following her gaze. "He leads the local Lakota band. They're here for trade negotiations with Mayor Hoffman." Chief Mahkah sat tall upon his painted horse, his long black hair adorned with a single eagle feather. His face, etched with the wisdom of perhaps 35 years, remained impassive as he surveyed the town. When his dark eyes met Emma's, she felt a jolt of something inexplicable pass between them. Instead of looking away as propriety demanded, Emma held his gaze. The corner of the chief's mouth lifted slightly, whether in amusement or challenge, she couldn't tell. "Miss Bennett?" Sheriff Miller's voice broke the moment. "It's best not to stare at the Lakota. Relations are complicated." "I understand diplomacy, Sheriff," Emma replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "But I refuse to cower when a simple acknowledgement will suffice." The sheriff sighed. "The schoolhouse is ready for you to inspect tomorrow. For now, Mrs. Palmer will show you to your room." That evening, Emma unpacked her books and teaching materials, including several volumes on Native American cultures she had purchased in Boston. Her father, a professor of anthropology, had instilled in her a deep respect for indigenous knowledge. The following morning, Emma rose early to explore the town before meeting the school board. As she walked past the general store, she noticed Chief Mahkah examining tools at the trading post across the street. Acting on impulse, she crossed over. "Good morning," she said clearly. "I'm Miss Bennett, the new schoolteacher." Maka regarded her with surprise that quickly masked itself. "The white woman who does not look away," he remarked in excellent English. "Unusual. I believe in looking people in the eye when greeting them," Emma replied. "It's a sign of respect where I'm from." "And where's that?" "Boston, far to the east." A man rushed from the general store, his face flushed with anger. "Miss Bennett, step away immediately." It was Mayor Hoffman, a portly man with a waxed mustache. "Chief, I apologize for this intrusion." Maka raised his hand slightly. "The teacher has done nothing wrong." "Nevertheless," huffed the mayor, taking Emma's elbow, "this is highly improper. Come along, Miss Bennett." As she was led away, Emma glanced back to find Maka watching her with undisguised interest. "What were you thinking?" Mayor Hoffman demanded when they were out of earshot. "Speaking directly to the chief without introduction or permission. Do you have any idea how delicate these negotiations are?" "I was merely being polite, Mayor Hoffman," Emma replied. "Is courtesy not universal?" "These are not civilized people, Miss Bennett," the mayor said, lowering his voice. "They respect strength and authority, not your Eastern niceties. The Lakota have agreed to remain peaceful only because of Chief Mahkah's influence. Don't jeopardize that with your ignorance." Emma felt her cheeks burn. "With respect, sir, my father was Professor James Bennett, who wrote extensively on Native cultures. I believe your assessment is both incorrect and prejudiced." The mayor's face darkened. Be that as it may, you will keep your distance from the Lakota delegation, particularly Chief Mahkah. Is that understood? Emma nodded stiffly, though her mind rebelled against such arbitrary restrictions. If she was to teach in this town, she needed to understand all its inhabitants. That afternoon, as Emma organized her classroom, a shadow fell across the doorway. She turned to find Chief Mahkah standing there, his imposing figure filling the frame. "Miss Bennett," he said, his deep voice resonating in the empty schoolhouse. "I would speak with you." Emma's heart quickened, but she maintained her composure. "Please come in, Chief Mahkah." He entered, surveying the modest room with its rows of desks. "You teach the children of Rivercrest?" "I will, yes. Classes begin next week." Maka nodded slowly. "Will you teach them about my people as well? Or only about yours?" The directness of his question took Emma by surprise, but she appreciated its honesty. "I would like to teach them about all the peoples who share this land, but I fear my knowledge is limited to books." "Books written by men who have never lived among us," Maka observed. "Yes," Emma acknowledged, "which is why I would welcome any guidance you might offer on what truths should be shared." For the first time, she saw genuine surprise in his expression. The chief studied her face as if searching for deception and found none. "You are not what I expected from a white teacher," he finally said. "And what did you expect?" "Someone afraid. Someone certain of their superiority." His eyes held hers. "You are neither." Before Emma could respond, voices approached outside. Maka moved toward the door. "We will speak again, Emma Bennett." He was gone before she could correct him on the improper use of her first name, though strangely, she found she didn't mind it from him. The schoolhouse bell rang bright and clear across Rivercrest as children filed into Emma's classroom for the third week of lessons. Outside, autumn painted the prairie in gold and amber hues, the morning air crisp with the promise of an early winter. Emma had settled into a routine, finding unexpected joy in teaching the frontier children who, despite their limited prior education, showed remarkable eagerness to learn. "Good morning, class," she greeted them, smoothing her navy blue skirt. "Good morning, Miss Bennett," they chorused back. 20 young faces ranging from 6 to 16 years of age. "Today we'll continue our geography lesson. But first," Emma paused as she noticed Sarah Wilkins, the blacksmith's daughter, raising her hand tentatively. "Yes, Sarah." "Miss Bennett, is it true what my pa says? That the Indians might attack our town if the treaty talks fail?" A murmur swept through the classroom. Emma noticed several children exchanging worried glances. "That is not a productive way to discuss our neighbors," Emma replied carefully. "The Lakota people have lived on these lands for generations. Chief Mahkah and Mayor Hoffman are working to ensure that both communities can coexist peacefully." Thomas Miller, the sheriff's son, spoke up without raising his hand. "My father says the chief is demanding too much land back. Says the government won't agree." Emma took a deep breath. "In this classroom, we will discuss different perspectives with respect. Tomorrow I've arranged for a special lesson about Lakota culture. Perhaps understanding one another better is the first step toward lasting peace." She didn't mention that this arrangement had come from a chance encounter with Chief Mahkah 3 days earlier. She had been gathering plants for a science lesson when she'd spotted him near the creek that bordered the town. Their conversation had been brief, but significant. He had agreed to send his sister's daughter, Wachiwi, to speak to the class about Lakota traditions. After dismissing the children that afternoon, Emma remained at her desk, preparing materials for the next day's lesson. The schoolhouse door creaked open, and she looked up expecting to see one of her students returning for a forgotten slate or book. Instead, Mayor Hoffman strode in, his expression thunderous. Behind him stood 3 members of the town council. "Miss Bennett, what is the meaning of this?" He slapped a piece of paper onto her desk, a copy of her lesson plan that mentioned tomorrow's cultural presentation. "It's exactly what it appears to be, Mayor," Emma replied evenly, though her hands trembled slightly. "An educational opportunity for the children to learn about their neighbors. Without consulting the school board, without my approval." Hoffman's face had reddened beneath his mustache. "You've invited a savage into our schoolhouse." Emma stood, drawing herself to her full height. Wachiwi is Chief Mahkah's niece, educated at a mission school. There is nothing inappropriate about this cultural exchange. Cultural exchange? Scoffed Councilman Davis, a rancher whose cattle often grazed on disputed lands. Next, you'll be teaching our children to live in teepees and worship heathen spirits. Gentlemen, Emma said, struggling to keep her voice level, if we expect the Lakota to understand and respect our ways, should we not extend the same courtesy? How can we negotiate in good faith when we refuse to learn about those across the table? The mayor stepped closer, lowering his voice. Miss Bennett, I've received word that you've been seen speaking privately with Chief Mahkah on multiple occasions. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. We have spoken about educational matters only. The chief is concerned about how his people are represented to the children. This stops now, Hoffman declared. You will cancel this presentation and refrain from any further contact with the Lakota, especially Maka. Otherwise, your position in this town will be reconsidered. After they left, Emma sank into her chair, heart pounding. She had not anticipated such resistance to a simple cultural lesson. More troubling was the realization that her interactions with Maka were being monitored. Their conversations had indeed been innocent, yet something had shifted between them, an unspoken understanding, a mutual respect that seemed to deepen with each exchange. Later that evening, as twilight softened the harsh edges of the frontier town, Emma walked to the telegraph office to send a letter to her aunt in Boston. As she turned the corner, she nearly collided with Maka, who was emerging from the trading post. Miss Bennett, he acknowledged, steadying her with a brief touch to her elbow that he quickly withdrew. Chief Mahkah, she replied, conscious of curious eyes watching from the saloon across the street. I'm afraid I must inform you that tomorrow's presentation has been postponed. His dark eyes narrowed slightly. The mayor disapproves. Yes. She hesitated, then added quietly, they've forbidden me from speaking with you as well. A muscle tightened in his jaw. And yet here you are, speaking with me. I believe some rules deserve to be questioned, Emma replied, surprised by her own boldness. For a moment, Maka's stoic expression softened. My people have a saying. The woman who walks against the wind grows stronger with each step. A beautiful sentiment, Emma smiled, though walking against the wind can be quite exhausting. Perhaps, Maka said, his voice dropping lower. But such women find allies in unexpected places. Before she could respond, Sheriff Miller approached, his hand resting casually on his holstered pistol. Evening, Chief. Miss Bennett, I believe Mrs. Palmer was looking for you at the boarding house. Taking the hint, Emma nodded politely to both men and continued on her way, feeling Maka's gaze follow her down the street. The next morning, Emma arrived at the schoolhouse early to find a small leather pouch hanging from the door handle. Inside was a carefully carved wooden medallion depicting an eagle in flight, along with a folded note written in elegant script, for the teacher who is not afraid to soar above small minds. Dimi? Emma quickly tucked the gift into her pocket, her mind racing. Such a personal token could only deepen the town's suspicions about her interactions with the chief, yet she couldn't bring herself to discard it. As the children filed in, Emma noticed an unusual tension in their behavior. Finally, Elizabeth Cooper, the minister's daughter, approached her desk. Miss Bennett, she whispered, is it true what they're saying? That you and the Indian chief are friends? Emma felt a chill run through her. I believe in treating everyone with respect, Elizabeth. Chief Mahkah is an intelligent, educated man who wants what's best for his people, just as Mayor Hoffman wants what's best for Rivercrest. My mother says a proper lady wouldn't associate with Indians, the girl persisted. Then perhaps it's time we reconsidered what makes a lady proper, Emma replied gently. Now please take your seat so we can begin our lesson. Throughout the day, Emma felt the weight of the medallion in her pocket, a small but significant act of defiance against the narrow minds that sought to control her. Whatever consequences might come, she knew she could no longer pretend indifference toward Maka or his people. Something profound had awakened within her, a recognition that went beyond mere intellectual curiosity or professional duty. As she dismissed the class, Emma noticed Wachiwi standing across the street watching the schoolhouse. Their eyes met briefly before the young Lakota woman turned and disappeared between the buildings. The message was clear. Despite the town's prohibition, the cultural exchange would continue, if Emma was brave enough to pursue it. The treaty negotiations had reached a critical impasse. For 10 days, the Lakota delegation had met with territorial officials in Rivercrest's town hall, their discussions growing increasingly tense. Emma heard fragments of the disputes from townspeople's conversations. Boundaries along the western creek were contested, hunting rights disputed, and promises from previous agreements allegedly broken by both sides. November had arrived with an unexpected snowfall that blanketed the town in pristine white, transforming Rivercrest into a scene from a Christmas card. Yet beneath this peaceful facade, Emma sensed growing hostility. Lakota scouts were reportedly seen near outlying farms, while several settlers had armed themselves despite Sheriff Miller's calls for calm. Emma had maintained her distance from Chief Mahkah as ordered, though she wore his carved medallion beneath her high-necked blouses, hidden from view but close to her heart. Their paths crossed occasionally in town, their interactions limited to formal nods of acknowledgement that belied the unspoken connection between them. One evening, as Emma corrected assignments by lamplight in her small room at the boarding house, a soft knock came at her window. Startled, she drew back the curtain to find Wachiwi standing in the snow below. The young woman motioned urgently for Emma to come outside. Wrapping her woolen shawl around her shoulders, Emma slipped quietly through the back door of Mrs. Palmer's boarding house. "What's wrong?" she asked as soon as they were safely hidden behind the woodshed. "The white men plan to betray Maka," Wachiwi whispered, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. "Tomorrow they will present a new treaty, different from what was discussed. They have already sent for soldiers from Fort Laramie." Emma's blood ran cold. "How do you know this?" "The mayor's clerk. He drinks too much whiskey and speaks too freely to the women at the saloon." Wachiwi's expression was grim. "If Maka signs, our people will lose the sacred grounds where our ancestors are buried. If he refuses, the soldiers will force our band onto the reservation at gunpoint." "This is unconscionable," Emma said, indignation rising within her. "Why are you telling me?" "Because Maka trusts you. He will not show it before others, but he speaks of the white teacher with respect." Wachiwi's dark eyes held Emma's. "He believes you have an honest heart." Emma felt a flutter in her chest at these words. "What can I possibly do? The document is in the mayor's office. If we had proof of their deception before tomorrow's council." "You want me to break into the mayor's office?" Emma gasped. "That's illegal." "Is it not also illegal to break treaties and lie to my people?" Wachiwi countered. "You teach your children about truth and justice. Is this justice?" Emma closed her eyes briefly, weighing her options. Her position in town was already precarious. If caught, she would certainly be dismissed, possibly even arrested. Yet the thought of Maka being deliberately deceived, of his people suffering because of such dishonesty, was unbearable. "When does the mayor leave his office?" Emma asked finally. 2 hours later, Emma found herself slipping through the back door of the town hall, her heart pounding so loudly she feared it might alert the night watchman dozing in the front lobby. Wachiwi had created a distraction, a minor commotion near the saloon that had drawn the watchman's curiosity, giving Emma precious minutes to search the mayor's office. By the light of a small candle, Emma examined the papers on Mayor Hoffman's desk until she found what she sought: 2 versions of the treaty, one with the terms as negotiated, another with significant alterations that would deprive the Lakota of vital hunting grounds and water access. Quickly, she used her teacher's skill at copying to document the discrepancies on a sheet of paper she had brought. As she was replacing the documents, Emma heard footsteps approaching. Blowing out her candle, she pressed herself against the wall behind the door, scarcely daring to breathe as Sheriff Miller entered, peering into the darkened room. After an agonizing moment, he muttered something about checking the windows and moved on to the next office. Once the hallway was clear, Emma fled through the back entrance, clutching her notes. She hurried through the snow-covered streets to the edge of town where Wachiwi waited with 2 horses. "You found it?" the Lakota woman asked. Emma nodded, showing her the notes. "It's worse than you thought. The new boundaries would cut off access to the winter hunting grounds entirely. Then we must hurry. Maka and the elders must see this before tomorrow's council." Before Emma could protest, Wachiwi was helping her mount one of the horses. "I've never ridden alone," Emma admitted nervously. She knows the way, Wachiwi assured her, mounting her own horse with practiced ease. Follow me closely. They rode through the moonlit prairie, the snow sparkling like crushed diamonds around them. Despite her fear of discovery and her limited riding experience, Emma felt an exhilarating freedom as they galloped toward the Lakota camp several miles from town. The encampment was larger than Emma had imagined. Dozens of teepees arranged in a great circle, with central fires burning despite the late hour. Their arrival caused immediate stir, with warriors approaching with hands on weapons until they recognized Wachiwi. Dismounting shakily, Emma followed Wachiwi to the largest teepee at the center of the camp. Inside, Maka sat with several tribal elders around a small fire, deep in discussion. When he saw Emma, his impassive expression gave way momentarily to shock. "What is this?" he demanded, rising to his feet. "She brings proof of the white men's lies," Wachiwi explained quickly in English, for Emma's benefit. Emma stepped forward, unfolding her notes with trembling hands. "Chief Mahkah, the treaty you're meant to sign tomorrow is not what you've negotiated. I've copied the changes they've made without your knowledge." As Maka reviewed her notes, his face hardened. He spoke rapidly to the elders in Lakota, then turned back to Emma. "Why would you betray your own people to bring us this warning? Because justice matters more than loyalty to dishonest men," Emma replied, meeting his intense gaze. "What Mayor Hoffman is doing is wrong." Maka studied her for a long moment, the firelight casting shadows across his strong features. "You risk much by coming here. As would you by signing that false treaty," she countered. A murmur of approval went through the elders at her boldness. Maka's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Wachiwi, prepare a place for Miss Bennett to rest. It is too dangerous for her to return to town tonight." As Wachiwi led her to a smaller teepee, Emma realized the full implications of her actions. By morning, her absence would be discovered. By helping Maka, she had likely sacrificed her position, her reputation, and any future in proper society. Yet watching the dignified way Maka had received the troubling news, without rage or threats of violence, but with a measured resolve to protect his people through wisdom rather than war, Emma knew she had made the right choice. Whatever came next, she would face it knowing she had stood for truth. Later, as she lay wrapped in warm buffalo robes, staring at the smoke hole above through which stars were visible, Emma heard soft footsteps approaching. Maka ducked into the teepee, maintaining a respectful distance as he sat near the entrance. "You should be asleep," he said quietly. "Tomorrow will bring challenges for us both." "I can't stop thinking about what will happen," Emma admitted. "They'll never allow me to teach again." "Among my people, a teacher is honored above all others," Maka said. "One who risks herself to protect truth even more so." "What will you do tomorrow?" she asked. "I will confront their deception openly. With your evidence, they cannot deny their dishonesty." His dark eyes reflected the dying embers of the small fire. "You wear my gift," he observed, noticing the wooden medallion that had slipped from beneath her collar. Emma touched it self-consciously. "It reminded me to be brave." "It is a symbol of the eagle's protection," Maka explained. "I carved it the night we first spoke at the schoolhouse, when I saw in you a spirit unlike any I had encountered among your people." "And what kind of spirit is that?" Emma asked softly. "One that soars above boundaries others accept without question. One that sees with clear eyes." He paused, then added, "One that matches my own." The admission hung between them, charged with meaning neither could fully express. Emma felt tears prick her eyes at the impossible situation they faced. Two people from different worlds, connected by mutual respect and growing affection, yet separated by every social convention and historical conflict. "Get some rest, Emma Bennett," Maka said, rising to leave. "Tomorrow we fight our battle with words and truth. Whatever comes, know that you have earned a place of honor among the Lakota people." As he disappeared into the night, Emma touched the wooden medallion once more, drawing strength from the knowledge that whatever bridges she had burned behind her, she had helped forge new ones between two communities that desperately needed understanding. Dawn broke cold and clear over the Lakota camp. Emma awakened to the sounds of activity, women tending fires, children's laughter, men preparing horses for the journey to Rivercrest. For a moment, disoriented by her surroundings, She forgot the gravity of what awaited her. Then reality crashed back as Wachiwi entered with a cup of hot herbal tea. "The council gathers," she said simply. "Maka asks if you will accompany our delegation." Emma sat up, smoothing her rumpled skirt. "Yes, of course, though I doubt my presence will be welcomed by the mayor." Wachiwi's lips curved in a slight smile. "Your presence has never been about the mayor's welcome." An hour later, Emma rode alongside the Lakota delegation, her borrowed horse keeping pace with Maka's painted stallion. They had given her a warm, fur-lined cloak to ward off the morning chill, its unfamiliar weight both comforting and symbolic of how far she had crossed the invisible boundary between their worlds. "The town will be watching," Maka said quietly as Rivercrest appeared on the horizon. "Are you certain of your choice?" Emma straightened her shoulders. "I've never been more certain of anything." When their party rode into town, the reaction was immediate. People stopped in their tracks, staring openly at the schoolteacher riding among the Lakota. Sheriff Miller hurried from his office, his hand instinctively moving to his holster before he recognized Emma. "Miss Bennett, we've had search parties out since dawn." His relief quickly transformed to confusion. "What in God's name are you doing with them?" "Ensuring that today's negotiations proceed honestly, Sheriff," she replied calmly. Mayor Hoffman emerged from the town hall, his face purpling at the sight of her. "Miss Bennett, step down from that horse immediately." Maka dismounted first, then offered Emma his hand. The simple courtesy performed before the gathering crowd was a clear statement of his regard for her. Emma accepted his assistance, feeling the strength in his grasp as she descended. "Mayor Hoffman," she said evenly, "I believe we should all proceed inside. There are important matters to discuss before any treaty is signed." "You have no place in these negotiations," Hoffman sputtered. "And after this scandalous behavior, you have no place in this town." "Perhaps," Emma acknowledged, "but I do have evidence of the alterations made to the treaty document after terms were agreed upon with Chief Mahkah." A murmur ran through the crowd. From the corner of her eye, Emma saw Sheriff Miller's expression shift from disapproval to concern. "This is outrageous," Hoffman blustered. "Sheriff, remove this woman." Miller hesitated. "Is it true, Mayor? Has the treaty been altered?" "These are diplomatic matters beyond your jurisdiction, Sheriff," the mayor replied stiffly. "Now do your duty." Before Miller could respond, Maka stepped forward. "If the woman speaks falsely, you have nothing to fear from letting her present her evidence." His commanding presence seemed to fill the street, "unless there is truth in her words." The territorial governor, who had arrived the previous day for the treaty signing, emerged from the hotel across the street. "What's the meaning of this delay, Hoffman? We have a schedule to maintain." Emma seized her opportunity, approaching the governor directly. "Sir, I have reason to believe the treaty document has been modified without Chief Mahkah's knowledge. As a citizen concerned with the honor of our government's dealings, I request that both versions be examined publicly before signing." The governor, a political appointee conscious of his reputation in Washington, frowned. "Is this true, Mayor?" "Trapped," Hoffman could only sputter indignantly as Councilman Davis whispered urgently in his ear. "I suggest we continue this discussion inside," the governor declared, motioning toward the town hall. "Chief Mahkah, your delegates are welcome. Miss Bennett, since you've raised these concerns, you may present your evidence." Inside the council chamber, Emma produced her notes, explaining how she had discovered the two versions of the treaty. The governor examined both documents, his expression growing increasingly grave. "Mayor Hoffman," he said finally, "this is a serious breach of negotiation protocols. The alterations to these boundary lines are substantial and were clearly made after preliminary agreements." "Merely clarifications," Hoffman insisted weakly. "The original terms were imprecise. They were precise enough to grant my people access to our ancestral hunting grounds," Maka countered. "Grounds your clarifications would deny us." The governor sighed heavily. "We will revert to the original terms as negotiated in good faith. And Mayor Hoffman, we will discuss your conduct in this matter privately." As the meeting proceeded, with the original treaty being prepared for signatures, Emma sat quietly, aware of the hostile glares from Hoffman and his allies, and equally aware of the measured respect in Maka's occasional glances. By standing for truth, she had likely sealed her fate in Rivercrest, yet she felt no regret. After the treaty was signed, with provisions that respected both Lakota sovereignty over certain lands and settler access to others. The governor approached Emma. "That was an extraordinary action you took, Miss Bennett. Risky but principled." "Thank you, sir. I couldn't stand by while deception undermined the peace process. Mayor Hoffman informs me your position here has become untenable." The governor studied her thoughtfully. "I'm establishing a new Indian Affairs office in Bismarck. We need educated people who understand both worlds. Would such a position interest you?" Before Emma could respond, Maka joined them. "The governor offers you a way forward," he observed. "A chance to continue your work of building bridges." Emma looked between them, understanding the gravity of the choice before her. "I would need to consider it carefully." "Of course," the governor nodded. "I'll be in town until tomorrow." As the council chamber emptied, Emma found herself alone with Maka for the first time since the previous night. "You have won the respect of my people," he said, his deep voice resonating in the quiet room, "and created powerful enemies among your own." "Some enemies are worth making when the cause is just," Emma replied. Maka's expression softened. "The governor's offer is generous. In Bismarck, you could help many of my people navigate the changes coming to our lands. You think I should accept?" "I think," he said carefully, "that a spirit like yours should not be confined by the small minds of this town." Emma studied his proud features, seeing in them the same conflict she felt, the pull of duty against the tug of deeper feelings neither could fully acknowledge. "And what of you?" she asked softly. "What path do you follow now?" "My duty remains to my people," he answered. "But perhaps our paths need not diverge entirely." "What do you mean?" "The treaty establishes regular councils between Lakota leaders and territorial officials. As chief, I would attend these meetings in Bismarck." His dark eyes held hers. "Our worlds are changing, Emma Bennett. Perhaps we can help shape that change together." In that moment, Emma understood he was offering more than a professional alliance. He was suggesting a possibility neither had dared voice before, a future where they might continue to know each other, to work alongside one another, beyond the constraints of Rivercrest's prejudices. "I will speak with the governor tomorrow," she decided. "And yes, I would welcome the chance to continue our collaboration." A rare smile transformed Maka's solemn features. "The eagle does not fear new horizons," he said, touching the medallion she wore. "Neither should you." 3 months later, Emma stood at the window of her new office in Bismarck, watching as a group of Lakota representatives rode into town for the quarterly council meeting. At their head was Chief Mahkah, his commanding presence unmistakable even at a distance. Their relationship had evolved gradually during these meetings, professional respect deepening into friendship, and friendship blossoming into something more profound. Though they navigated their connection carefully, mindful of the cultural divides they bridged, each encounter strengthened the bond between them. Emma had found her calling in the Indian Affairs Office, using her education to advocate for fair policies and improved educational opportunities for Native children. Maka had become an influential voice in territorial negotiations, respected by officials for his wisdom and diplomacy. When he dismounted before the government building, Maka looked up at her window, as if sensing her presence. Emma raised her hand in greeting, touching the wooden eagle medallion she still wore daily. Later, as they walked together along the Missouri River after the day's meetings, Maka spoke of changes coming to his people's way of life. "My elders resist the new schools," he admitted. "They fear our children will forget our traditions." "What if the schools honored both worlds?" Emma suggested. "Teaching your language alongside English, your history alongside ours?" Maka considered this. "You would help create such a place?" "I would," she promised. "A school where no child feels they must abandon who they are to become who they might be." He took her hand then, a gesture that would have scandalized Rivercrest but felt perfectly natural between them now. "You see possibilities others cannot imagine, Emma Bennett." "As do you, Maka," she replied softly. "Perhaps that is why our paths crossed." As the setting sun bathed the river in golden light, they stood together on the boundary between two worlds, no longer divided, but united in their vision of a future where understanding might triumph over prejudice, and where love, patient, respectful, and enduring, could bridge the greatest of divides. The journey will not be easy, Maka cautioned, his fingers entwined with hers. Emma smiled up at him, her heart full of certainty. The most worthwhile journeys rarely are. As they turned back toward town, walking side by side as equals, Emma knew that whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together. The school teacher who had defied convention and the chief who had claimed her heart, not through conquest, but through mutual respect and shared purpose, writing a new chapter in the story of their changing worlds.